Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all safe in your home and you are making use of the time. And today, let us talk about interviews. This will be a kind of an additional learning for my students. Most probably, in fact, we'll be having an interview session, one-to-one interview or a panel interview or some kind of thing. And of course, interview is going to help you out for your a lifetime, right? Whenever you want to meet someone, whenever you want to talk to someone, you might be an interviewee or an interviewer. It is important for you to know the process of interviews, and that is what we're going to see today in this session. So, interviews, and let's begin. What is an interview? An interview is a conversation between two or more people where questions are asked by the interviewer to elicit facts or statements from the interviewee. Who is an interviewer and interviewee? Hope you all know. One who asks question is an interviewer and one who answers the question is an interviewee here. Right? Interviews are a standard part of qualitative research. This is the other side of the interview. They're also used in journalism and media reporting and in various employment related contexts. And here we are concentrating on this employment related context where any student is going to face a situation uh, of an interview and where you understand how the process is going to happen. To understand the process of an interview is very important to get through any interview circumstances. I strongly feel it is not just going attending an interview, answering questions, not that. It's important for you to understand why an interview is being held, what is actually expected uh, from a candidate or from an interviewee, right? Let us try to understand the process of the interview so that uh, the interview process will be easy for you, right? So we'll move on to this. Why interviews? The main task in interviewing is to understand the meaning of what the interviewees say. Interviews are time consuming and resource intensive. Interviews provide an opportunity of face-to-face interaction between two persons, hence they reduce conflicts. From now on, imagine that you are an interviewer. This presentation is focused from that point of view. Why? Ma'am, I have to be an interviewee. Why should I be an interviewer? Right. This is going to help you face an interview successfully. It is going to help you understand the needs of an interviewer in conducting an interview so that you will be a good interviewee. Take the task seriously. Being an interview panel member might be your activity. So, let us move on. Framing and preparing interview questions. Any interviewer will listen at three levels. The first level will be like what the participant is actually saying. The second level is the inner voice or the subtext of the communication. The third level, any interviewer will be having his focus on the process and the flow of the interview. Hope all these things we discussed during our session on listening skills. Alright, whatever we say, that's a different thing. And what is the tone of the topic? When you only listen to the backdrop of what is actually being said, you understand the whole idea of what is being spoken or what is being heard. Okay, so as an interviewer, you should explore and do not probe. These two are two different contexts, right? Exploring the ideas, getting the needed information is a different things, and you should not actually probe into the personal areas of an interviewer. The interviewee should be encouraged to explore their experiences in a manner that is sensitive and respectful. They should not be probed in such a way that makes them feel uncomfortable or like a specimen in a lab. If too much time is spent dwelling on minute details or if too many follow-up questions are asked, it is possible, that the participant will become defensive or unwilling to share. Thus, it is the interviewer's job to strike a balance between ambiguity and specificity in their question asking. So, as an interviewee, also, if you are going to be a person who is going to answer the question, first, have the idea that the interviewer is there to help you. He is not there to corner you or coax you with his idea. So, some questions are asked, try to answer with a limit, like where you can stop, where you can give the decent information and all that. And sometimes, of course, yes, sometimes some interviewers who are really very harsh enough, or really they want to throw away people and all that, we might also face such kind of interview. Yes, but the thing is that you must have the courage. You must know which interviewer is good and which interviewer is bad, and you must also know at what stage I should stop answering the question, or to what extent I should answer to this question and all that. Be wary of leading questions. Now, as an interviewer, leading questions are questions which suggest or imply an answer. Always ask open-ended questions. For example, instead of asking, did the experience make you feel sad? Where naturally he might be answering it like yes or no, which is leading in nature. It would be better to ask, how did the experience make you feel? As this suggests no expectations. So let him open out or her open out, saying that it is good, okay, not okay, sad, or whatever it is. Let the questions be open ended. Let us not give them a closed choice. Do not interrupt. Participants, I mean the interviewee, should feel comfortable and respected throughout the interview. Interruptions may lead to losing track. Make the participant feel comfortable. If even if they stammer, or even if they take some time to think and formulate the answer, give them some time. Of course, you cannot give them lots of time, and you can also give them clues or hints to develop their answers, and so that the process of the interview is not getting uh, hang up, or kind of a hiccup is there. Types of interviews. So generally many types are there, and we'll see the basic four types of interviews: informal or a conversational interview, general interview guide approach, standardized open-ended interview, closed fixed response interview. So now let us take a look at the informal conversational interview. Informal interviews, they are also called as non-directive interviews, and they are more conversational. The format of the interview is not set in stone. It is not like a rapid fire round. I ask you a question, you give me the answer, and we move on to the next question. No. Here, they make the candidate speak a lot and understand a picture which is throughout. Rather, the interviewer might focus on getting to know the candidate by asking general questions and seeing how the conversations develops from there. Background questions, work history are mostly asked, and the considerations are based on the tone. Tone is very important. Any interviewer will understand whether the candidate is lying or is he true, whether he is whether he is giving the perfect answer, or he is trying to hide something and all that. So this kind of informal conversational interview helps an interviewer to understand the genuinity of the candidate. So the next thing is general interview guide approach. Interviews are particularly useful for getting the story behind a participant's experiences. The guide approach is intended to ensure that the same general areas of information are collected from each interviewee. This provides more focus than the conversational approach, but still allows a degree of a freedom and adaptability in getting information from the interviewee. It's a kind of a relative grading approach, I would say, where almost all the candidates who appear for the interview will get the same kind of questions, and they'll elucidate how each and every candidate is answering the question, and from that they'll come to a conclusion whether that the candidate is will be useful for this position or not, and all that. You have to be very careful when you answer all these questions. Of course, always we feel that being very different is going to give us a kind of an edge over others, but let that not be very different where people will not accept or agree to things what is happening here. The next thing is a standardized open-ended interview. The interview is considered open-ended because even though the questions can be scripted, the interviewer usually does not know what the contents of the response will be. These interviews may have some questions to gather basic factual data on participants, such as age and gender, but usually they focus more on the participants' thoughts, feelings, experiences, knowledge, skills, ideas, and preferences. Here again, they are going to test you what actually you are. Any open ended kind of interview is going to test what the metal of the man sitting before is. So they'll be talking about your experiences, your knowledge, skills, and all that, where you cannot lie. uh, Automatically all your true facts come out. That is why we tell you, do not lie. In the first part of interview will be very formal, where you will be showing yourself very goody goody, and through the interview, in the middle of the interview or by the end of the interview, you will automatically come out with what is actually inside you and all that. Sometimes you may even feel that you have made me wait so long for this interview, where I lost my temper. Why are you asking me such questions? How long will the interview take place and all that? Or even these kind of things will prop up, and which will make the interviewer understand that okay, this person is not that kind of a patient person and all that. This is just an example I'm telling you. So make sure that throughout the interview you keep yourself calm, composed. Sometimes giving out too much facts, too much experience and all that might turn negative. So as an interviewer, when you are going to ask questions to others, make sure that you are also putting questions where you'll elicit facts like this, so that people will understand, right? You'll also better understand how to answer a question like this. Okay, here, look at the examples of the open-ended interview questions. Give me a general view of your current or most recent responsibilities. If you could have the perfect job, what would it be? Think of a problem you had to deal with at your last or the present job. Tell me exactly what happened and how you handled it. Describe a situation in which you might find it justifiable to break company policy or alter standard procedure. In your past job experience, tell me about a time when you stuck to a company policy to solve a problem when it might have been easier or more immediately effective not to. Look at these kind of questions where you cannot actually lie throughout. You must have some basic idea about what has happened and how did you solve the issue and all that. Of course, now you're all too little to talk about job and all that. My students I'm talking about, so you can talk about student life or perfect school or something like that. You can think of any problem that you can handle. Like, let that not be too very personal, but you can talk about general problems, what you handled, how you handled and all that, which will tell. No, you can try to answer all these questions. Think of a problem you have to deal with at present. Now you can also talk about this quarantine time, where you can like tell us how, after this period is over, you can actually tell us how it exactly happened and how you handled it, and all that will help you out to answer a question like this. Describe a situation in which you might find it justifiable to break a company policy or alter standard procedure. You can talk about your personal belief or something like that, and try to answer all these kind of questions, which will help you out to answer any questions that is put to you, right? This is, you don't have any set of rules or set of regulations that are to be followed. You have to be very true when you answer all these questions, but at the same time Make sure that it is justifiable. Make sure that people like that. Make sure that you are going to convince many of the general public. So we'll move on to the next interview type, closed or fixed response interview. This type interview is essentially a verbal questionnaire. Questions and choices of responses are determined in advance. The interviewee selects from the given responses. So responses will be limited. From that you should select and you should tell people about your opinion. Okay, and as an interviewer, avoid prejudices. This can be done when the interviewer's judgment is their personal likes and dislikes. These may include but are not limited to racial and ethnic background. Applicants who display certain qualities or traits and refuse to consider their abilities or characteristics. Avoid prejudice in anywhere it is going to work out. Stages in becoming an interviewer. Okay, how will you become an interviewer? Of course, this is going to be an activity and you're going to be a panel interviewer. We'll be like in the class, we'll be like checking how as an interviewer you're behaving and all that. So before you come for an interview, thematizing the why and what of the investigation. Why are you doing this interview? And what are the questions I'm going to generally ask, and what kind of candidate I'm going to select for my job, right? What do I need actually? So thematize that. Designing, plan the design of the study. Interviewing, conduct the interview based on a guide. Transcribing, prepare the interview material for the analysis. Analyzing, decide on the purpose, the topic, the nature, and the methods of analysis that are appropriate. Verifying, ascertaining the validity of the interview findings. Reporting, communicate findings of the study based on the academic criteria. Examples for different types of questions. Okay. Experience example behavior questions. If I followed you through a typical day, what would I see you doing? Okay, this is a question. So typically, normal day, it's not a working day or a weekend day. No, I'm not talking about all this. A typical day, what will you be doing majority? You can tell me the majority of the time I'll be attending my classes. I'll be doing my homeworks and all that. And if that's going to be a weekend, I'll go to a movie or I'll do that, this and all that. So typically, what are you going to do? Right? Don't give lots of information where people are going to probe on that. Compare and contrast questions. You said that there was a big difference between this college and the previous college or school you studied. Describe some of the differences. Always when a question like this is asked, be very specific. Don't just tell this college is good, that school was bad. Don't give no answers which can elicit how can you say this is good, this is bad and all. I was studying too much in schools. Okay, college I'm a little bit okay, I'm not studying that much and all that, which may create a negative impact that you're not working properly now and all these things should not happen. So be very specific. You can tell them like I was staying in I was in a boarding school where I have to adjust with this, that, and all that. Now I'm not in a college hostel. I'm traveling every day. I find difference, something like that. Or even teachers, their schools. We had classes which are not very innovative. They used to teach syllabus and all that things. And here, I get an opportunity to be very innovative. I get practical things to do and all that. All these kind of statements, be very specific. And always, it's not better to talk about the bad things that happened to no, of course that's going to be a ladder which has brought you here. So always whenever you say some kind of difference, let that not be very bad about the old things or very bad about the good no the new thing now, right? So don't give room to no make you make people think that you're not that okay. Try to answer these questions. Descriptive questions. Describe a typical work day. What will you do from morning to evening? Follow-up questions. You said that you found communication among members of your team to be very strained. What do you think is the cause of this difficulty? Okay, describe a typical work day. Maybe in a work day, you tell them that I'm in a project with this computer science subject, and I don't find my teammates working, and moreover, I have a language disparity. If you talk Telugu, if you talk Hindi, I don't know both. I have, and I'm not very good in English also, so I cannot communicate. That was a problem, and this became a very, bad day for me and all that. So the follow-up question will be like this: like, you find the communication strained. So what do you think is the cause of this difficulty? So again, now you have to tell them, okay, I didn't learn things properly. I didn't. Not take English lesson seriously, something like that, where you are going to project yourself very bad. So that should not be there when you are describing a typical working day or whatever question might be. Don't lie, but at the same time, do not give lots of informations from where they'll elicit answers. Participating in a mock interview, this is a very good step, I would say. Mock interviews are a great way for students to practice their interview skills with an experienced professional. This opportunity allows them to receive feedback on what they are doing well and areas that they need to improve upon before interviews for internships and jobs. So it's important for a student to participate in a mock interview. Take the mock interview seriously so that you understand. And now what we are going to do is we are going to make you a panel interview member where you are going to interview other people, and at the same time you'll be answering. Maybe the groups get changed. One group you will be the interviewer, and for the other group you will be the interviewee, so you'll understand how to get along with the process of an interview. Participating as a panel member, a panel interview follows the same rule as a conventional interview. It is conducted by more than one interviewer. For graduate level interviews, the panel will probably consist of just 2 or 3 interviewers, usually a combination of HR team member. Okay, maybe in our interview, I'll be the HR team member, general questions, and okay, even you can be a HR team member. We'll decide. We'll have one technical expert, we'll have one HR team member, we'll have one CEO or something like that, and we'll have a role play kind of thing, and we'll see how each and every one is going to put question on the others. And this is a sample interview evaluation form. Okay, look at the thing. The first thing is going to be like greeted interviewer and stated name properly. The first thing is that go just greet the interviewer. The first thing is that I will be very tense once your name is called. You're just walking in, and you'll not be in very calm and composed, at least at the beginning. But make sure that you are wishing, you are greeting the interviewer, and please do wait till they ask you to sit. Okay, impression on the candidate. The first impression when you come in, how you walk, how you give your files to them, and all these things are very important. The first impression always is the best impression, as the saying goes. Make sure that you are not very panicky, everything, and the attitude. And at the same time, don't be of a very high attitude. Don't tell them, what is this? Even if I don't get this job, I'm not worried and all that. Don't tell all these things. Don't show that kind of attitude. Be very polite and go there. Dressed appropriately, of course, many would have told you about this. Be very formal when you go for an interview. Avoid informal clothes. Eye contact, this is the best thing, right? You have to always look into the face of the interviewer and answer. Sometimes the interviewer may not be louder enough and all that, so only when you look into his face, at least you'll understand he's talking. You can you'll get the exact words what he is speaking, and you'll be able to answer. All right, level of interest, please do not show disinterest during the interview. Friendliness, make sure that you're happy attending the interview. Enthusiasm, people should understand that you're enthusiastic, you are confident enough to and understand. See, look at the subject knowledge comes at the back. All right, even if you make some mistakes technically or something like that, that can always be corrected. But if you don't have confidence, but if you don't have enthusiasm, you have if you're not showing interest in the interview, all these things goes first. Right, education and training, how many questions you answered, answers focused on strengths, answers about team skills, and how you communicate it. This also plays a very important role. And they'll also look for your postures and gestures, non-verbal communication. And they'll also look for your listening skills. Once they ask you some question, and if you're not very alert and attentive to answer the question, if you said, pardon sir, of course, if you don't understand the question, you're going to tell them like, pardon sir, could you please repeat the question? And all these things are okay, but try to avoid that. Listening skills, try to get excellent over there, very good or excellent over there, so that your marks go high. And the leadership skills, how the questions will be there on to show your leadership skills, how you acted and all those things. It should be there. And thank the interviewer. Once the interview is over, let that be a very good interview or a bad interview, or where you have answered all the questions, where you have not answered all the questions, don't worry about that. Just like that, when you greeted the interviewer, it's your duty to thank the interviewer for his time and other things. Okay, so thank the interviewer and leave the hall appropriately. Okay, so the recommendation will be like, based on the observations made above and the applicant's interview and qualifications, do you think the person should be further considered for this position? So yes, no, or with reservation. So make sure that your interview goes well and you're going to be considered for the position. It's not going to be the end of all, but make sure that you are getting selected for this. Okay, and thank you for your patient listening. And again, we'll meet in the Moodle, and I would like to have a WhatsApp class on the Zoom interview. Most of the students told me that Zoom connections a problem and all that. So what we shall do is like, we'll have a WhatsApp class. We'll try to answer all those questions that are posted in this video. Try to answer all those questions. Of course, as I told you, you have not been into any of the job kind of thing. You can change that into some other question. Instead of job, you can talk about your school experience, your studying or something like that, and let the question be framed like that, and you can answer those questions in WhatsApp. Right before we meet personally in the classroom, we'll try to answer a few of these questions. I'm not giving you any technical questions. Of course, the classes of is of different in nature. We have got all programs under me. So what we shall do is like, I'm just going to ask you a general question where any student can answer, but that can be based on your own your own discipline. Okay, so soon we shall meet. Be happy, be safe. Thank you.